your questions tonight. So along with me tonight, I have our principal, Mike Bruno. You see him with the white background there. We have both members of our admissions team, Hillary Barnett and Kim McDermott, who is in the background with the team from our business office, Andy Odie and Mary Kay Buckley. And we're all here to answer questions tonight regarding the admissions process, the application, as well as scholarships and financial aid. And like we said, this is the first of 4 of these webinars that have been very beneficial for a way for us to connect with you as parents throughout this process, which can sometimes be a little bit confusing and daunting. And there's deadlines ahead of you, and you're relying on your son to get you some things, which isn't always easy. Well, hopefully tonight we can ease some of those concerns and answer a lot of questions. So the best way to ask us questions tonight is in the Q&A portion. It's very easy. If you just type your question in to that box, I will see those questions, and we're going to direct the questions to the appropriate people here. Like we said, whether that's admissions, our admissions application, or financial aid or scholarships. We have someone who's an expert in all these topics tonight that will be able to answer your questions as we get moving tonight. So as we wait for some questions to start coming in, I guess I just want to go over a couple dates with everyone that we've talked about. I know myself and Kim and Hillary have talked with a lot of you on your night for a day visits at Pickup about some of the important dates coming up. To let everyone know, our application is open. That is online right now from our website. Our application deadline for admission is December 9th. And we're going to go over some of the criteria for admission into St. Joe's. Basically, we have 3 criteria. One is the application along with your son's writing sample. And moms and dads, I've told you that sometimes that can hold you up a little bit. So get on your son to get that writing sample done. Once you submit that application page with the writing sample, it opens up your checklist in your portal. And that's where you're going to be able to complete some of the other items on your checklist, which is a letter of recommendation, which is required. 1 letter of recommendation from your son's school. You can add more on top of that from a coach or someone from church or scouts, but we do require 1 be from your son's school. And along with that, we'll need your son's middle school grades, 6th through 8th grades, as well as his HSPT score. So hopefully many of your sons took the test this past weekend. If you have not, the makeup date is this weekend, November 19th. That's at 8:00 a.m. And that is at Paramus Catholic, this testing site for the makeups. You can go as a walk into that site. So don't panic. You still have time to take the HSPT test. We do have some questions coming in. And real quick, Hillary, if you can help explain a little bit, just when you're in the checklist in school admin, the families have a chance to request transcripts and letters of recommendation right there in the portal. Can you just explain to our viewers how that works?
Yeah, so thank you, Ryan. So we're getting a lot of questions about people asking if they can have their transcripts and letters of recommendation sent to us before they submit their application. The answer is kind of twofold. Yes, you can call your school and ask them to be sent. Some schools will send them to us, some will not. They'll need an ask from us. Same letter, not really the same, but similarly, letters of recommendation, you can ask people specifically to write a letter and they can email that to us as well. The easier and better way for everyone is to do it through the portal. Once you submit your application, you will receive an email telling you next steps, and then everything becomes electronic, making it easy for you and making it easier for the people you're requesting information of. So you'll click on one of your checklist items in your portal, and it will ask you for the email address and the name of the person at your school that you want to send from whom you want to get your transcripts. They will upload them directly to your portal, and you'll be able to see that progress in your portal when they're delivered. Same thing happens with letters of recommendation. You will select a person, you'll click on the link in your portal. You will select the name of the person. It will send an email saying that you've requested a letter of recommendation, and that person will either send it, upload it right to the portal. They're also given the opportunity to send it to us if they don't want to work through the portal, and they can also deny it. We'll get a response back saying that person has denied it, and then we'll alert you to that as well. You will also see that progress in your portal. You'll see that checked off when those items have come in.
And just as a backup to that, because this leads into our first question, if you sent that through and your guidance counselor simply didn't get it, or they simply just want to email you that letter of recommendation, they can do that as well. They can email it to you if they're comfortable, or you can direct them to email that directly to us. And that goes for transcripts as well. Once we receive them, we're able to upload them into your portal and start completing some of the checklists for your application portal. And the first question we have is it correct that we can't complete elements of the application which are beyond the student statement in the online form before we upload the essay? So let me just clarify, the application form is one online form. Within that form is your son's writing sample. Most of that form is information that you're going to fill out as a parent, but your son does have to input his writing sample into there. The easiest way to do that is have him write the writing sample on a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc. And then when you are ready and he is ready, you can just copy and paste that into the box for the writing sample and hit submit. And yes, once that's submitted, that will open up the rest of your portal, and you have access to all the other elements of the online application at that point. Melissa Danino has a question. Do you suggest that the writing sample not exceed a certain number of words? I think what we've suggested is anywhere between 250 and 500 words. Mike, when it comes to essays, is there any advice to length that you would give to parents or students when they're getting ready to submit that writing sample?
I think the best advice I can give is let your son write the writing sample. As the person who reads them all, no, I'm not looking for a book, but I'm looking for some thoughtful insight from a teenage boy. So if the writing, you're reading it and you think that's not going to look good, I understand I'm reading teenage boy writing. So allow them to write it. You can help guide them. You can help sort of prod them and give them some ideas of what you'd like in there, but it really should come from them. So in terms of limit, I think, Ryan, you said it well, about 200-ish words. I'm not counting the words, but I do want to see some thought given to it by the boys.
Yeah, and I'll echo that sentiment from Mike. When we read these essays, sad to say that we have read some that we know are from mom or dad wrote it, and it doesn't look favorably on the applicant when we do that. And we can tell after reading many essays now, the voice and tone of an essay from a 14-year-old boy is a lot different than that of an adult. So I agree with Mike there. Please make sure your son writes that essay and submits that. Okay, our next question comes from Maribel. Are there any other outside scholarships that can be applied for? Is there a website that we can review? There seems to be many for colleges, but hard to find for high school. So I'll involve our business department, especially Mary Kay, on this one. But the way it works with scholarships, if your son completes his application for admission to St. Joe's, which means that he took the HSPT, we have his letter of recommendation, and we have his grades, and he's a complete applicant, he is then eligible to be considered for a merit scholarship. And our school gives many varying degrees of merit scholarships to students every year. There's no application in addition to the admissions application for that. So once that's complete, he is eligible. We do have other scholarships that are need-based scholarships that there is an application process for. If you click on the financial aid and scholarships portion tab under our admissions tab on our website, you'll find more information about that. But the way that works is if you've indicated that you will be applying for financial aid, you'll then get an invitation to apply for some need-based scholarships that are funded by outside organizations. Some are alumni, some are benefactors to the school that fund those scholarships. And Mary Kay, I know the process of that scholarship. It's going to be taking place over the next few weeks here. I know the scholarships, especially when it comes to those extra scholarships, are need-based, but there are additional scholarships. Maybe you want to tell our viewers about some of those that they have access to as well?
Sure. The two that are most typical, I think the ones where we've seen the most success in terms of our families applying are called the Tri-County Scholarship. That scholarship is automatically applied for when you fill out the FACTS financial aid application. And we can talk a little bit about that separately, but If you fill out the FACTS financial aid application, you are automatically applying for something called the Tri-County Scholarship. You need to live in one of 3 counties. I think it is Essex, Sussex, and Passaic, I believe. And that organization, the Tri-County Scholarship Fund, makes their own selection of the award winner for St. Joe's. Again, you need to live in one of those 3 counties. It does not require a separate application. It does require you to apply for financial aid through our FACTS system. The second application that we have most connection to is called the Scholarship for Inner City Children. And please, it's a little bit of a misnomer, because many of the students who earn this award do not live in an inner city setting. It's funded by the Archdiocese of Newark, and the basic requirement is that you attend a Catholic high school in the Archdiocese of Newark, and of course St. Joe's fits that parameter. It is a need-based scholarship, and their website is pretty clear about the income limits for the awards. So I would encourage you to explore their information via the link on the St. Joe's admissions tab under tuition, it might be tuition, financial aid, and scholarships. You can see the link to SFIC right there. You can go on there and explore that and see if you believe your financial circumstances would lend you to be a good applicant to that program. It does require a separate application. It's not linked to FACTS, so you would need to apply separately to them. We don't have any impact on their decisions. We work in conjunction with them, but it's an award that is made later on. Unfortunately, it's made later on in the application cycle for us. So if you are the recipient of that award, you will find out directly from the SFIC organization in May or maybe even June. So it won't be part of your financial award that you may earn through the St. Joe's process, either merit scholarship or financial aid. It's outside money. It's not necessarily under the domain of SJR. So.
And that's a key point that Mary Kay brings up, because often, especially last year, those awards were not announced till very late into the spring. And that is out of our hands. As Mary Kay mentioned, St. Joe's, we don't choose who those scholarships are. We don't choose the amounts. We just get word from the diocese on who has received them. So I guess my advice is hopefully a family wouldn't be making their decision on whether or not they're going to go to St. Joe's based on one of those 2 outside scholarships, because they are out of our hands, and it does take you well into the spring until you have an understanding of what was awarded. So, and just to be clear, before we get to our next questions, there are many ways that families have an opportunity to lower their tuition and make it ease that burden of paying a parochial school tuition. As we mentioned, there are merit scholarships, there are need-based scholarships as well. There are these outside scholarships that Mary Kay just talked about, and then there is need-based financial aid, which is through a separate application process. So there are many different ways for families to explore. And of course, all the information and those applications are available on our website under the admissions tab. The next question is about the HSPT. My son is panicking that his HSPT performance was poor. How do you weigh these results? I ask, even as I recognize that he's his own worst judge, but he's convinced he's no longer likely to be accepted. Before I have Mike talk about this, I would just say, and I tell this to all the 8th graders that I speak to in our grammar school visits, St. Joe's has 4 different curriculum levels. And I feel strongly that we have a place for many different types of students. That doesn't mean we have a place for every student. Every student does not get admitted to St. Joe's, but we have a place for different types of students, knowing that different students learn differently, and they're at different points in their academic career as an 8th grader, and they are placed accordingly. So Mike, why don't you talk about how much we factor in the HSPT as part of the entire application process?
Yeah, no, that's well said. And I think that that's an important point, that we are able to accommodate various levels of learner. So my short answer to the question would be, there's no reason for him to panic. You will get a home report as the parent in mid-January. It's typically right before the acceptance letters actually come out. So you'll have his scores, but it is a component of what we look at. So the school will actually receive the HSPT scores next month. And we take the second half of December into January to really give each applicant a thorough review. And yes, the HSPT score is part of that review, but so is all of the good work that your son has done in middle school to this point. So we have seen students who have a bad day or just not incredibly strong test takers, but the rest of their record is more indicative of the type of student they are and the kind of work that they can do. So we do look at it. There's no doubt it is kind of the one uniformed number that we have for all of our applicants. So it is weighted in the decision, but it is not the sole factor that we use to determine admission into the school. So as I said, no real reason to panic. It is also a normed test. I think that's important to realize too. So when you receive the score and say the total battery, it'll be called, if it's a 70, that's a 70th percentile, meaning that he did as well or better than 70% of test takers. It doesn't mean he got 70 out of 100, the way that, you know, his unit test in math would be. So it's important to realize that we obviously factor it that way, but there is no reason to panic. It is simply another component of your son's transcript that we receive.
And we've seen this firsthand, especially the last few years coming out of COVID and the effects of students taking tests and not taking tests, really. We've seen firsthand, even this year, where we have students that are St. Joe's students that are freshmen that I know they absolutely did not do well on the HSPT. In fact, they bombed the test, but they had good grades coming in and we saw a lot in them. And this first marking period at St. Joe's, they made honor roll. So it's not the end all be all. It is a piece of the application process that we consider, but it is not a make or break when it comes to getting into St. Joe's. Question from Anna Maria: whom should the letter of recommendation come from? So we require one letter of recommendation from your son's school. So that can be anyone employed at the school. That can be a teacher, that can be a guidance counselor, your son's principal, but they have to be from the school. Now, on top of that, if you wanted to add an extra letter of recommendation, you can. If there's someone, a coach or someone from church or someone from Scouts or something like that, you could add multiple, but we do require one, and it's usually from a guidance counselor or a teacher who can tell us a little bit more about your son. We're going to know he's a good student. We're going to see those grades, but can they tell us a little bit about a project that they worked on with him, or some leadership qualities or teamwork that he displayed while in school? Those are the things that help us understand a little bit more about who he is as a young man and how he will fit into the St. Joe's community. So, but it's got to be from someone from school. Our next question comes from Natalia. Is there an assessment test after acceptance? There is not. The last few years, the HSPT exam has been used to help us with placement. And Mike, I know we look at those scores and helping place the boys in their curriculum level, but there are also many conversations along the way with parents, especially in the spring, where maybe your son was placed in a certain level and you wanted to talk about a particular class or two where they want to be placed. And Mike, I know you and Dave Stoto, our head of curriculum, have quite a bit of those conversations, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So the HSPT does give us some really good data in terms of student ability, but again, it's not the end all be all. So we will place students based on their middle school scores, any standardized test scores in middle school, the HSPT, into one of our various tracks. And then typically in late June, early July, you will receive your son's schedule. So then you'll know he's been placed in the accelerated level or the honors level or the college prep level. We are then available all summer for families who want to come in and talk about that. And also, once freshman year begins during that first marking period, we will make tweaks to a student's schedule. If we see that they've been brought in our college prep level, but they're really exceeding at a high level, we'll make those adjustments by the end of the first marking period. So you're not locked into where you start. In fact, one of the great things I think that we do really well is that students oftentimes who come in, who are start on a certain level, if they started at college prep level, as they move throughout their years here, they're taking accelerated and honors courses before graduation. So we want to meet the students where they're at, but then help them to grow over time.
Okay. Next question is, if accepted, when is the deadline to declare? So the way the deadlines and the next few months will work, our application deadline is December 9th, along with our financial aid application deadline. Following that, acceptances will go out the second week of January. So they'll go out in the actual mail on January 12th and via email the afternoon of January 13th. After that, you have about a month or so to weigh your options and visit campus again. St. Joe's has an accepted students night, which is usually late January, early February, where you have one chance to come back and hear from some speakers and some prestigious alumni to tell you a little bit more about our school. And then it's really decision time. Registration day is February 11th. Prior to that, there will be a date in early February that we declare as the date where we require you to register if you want to secure not only your spot in the class of 2027, but your financial package. After that, we're not saying it won't be there, but we can't guarantee that that same package will be available to you and that your spot will be there. So you basically have a month when you find out from acceptance till the deadlines start to come when your son does need to make a decision. So hopefully that helped answer your question. Linda Vero has a question. If you have a sibling, do you complete a separate fax application for each? And Linda has a son at St. Joe's right now and a current 8th grader. And Mrs. Buckley and Mr. Odie, can you help with that as far as when a second member of the family comes to St. Joe's and the application process for aid? How does that work?
You would need to submit just one financial aid application, but it would be the one that is due in time for the incoming freshman, so that will allow us to make an assessment about financial need for your freshman, and then we will use that information that you've filed in fax and maybe have a follow-up question or two, you know, when the upper class, the returning student process begins, which is in late March and early April with kind of a mid-April deadline. So chances are we know most of what there is to know by the time your incoming freshman is awarded.
Okay. And it appears someone's telling me that we froze during that last portion when I was going over some of those dates. So I can repeat some of those real quick for Elizabeth. The dates, the key dates to keep an eye on. December 9th is the application for admission deadline and the application for financial aid. Following that, January 12th is when our acceptances will go out into the mail. And January 13th is when the acceptances go out via email. So you will know whether your son was accepted on the afternoon of January 13th. Within that acceptance, if you've gone through the process of applying for financial aid before the deadline, applying for those need-based scholarships, you will know if your son earned a scholarship, if you've been awarded financial aid, and what your tuition would be to come to St. Joe's when you get your acceptance. After that, registration day is February 11th. And leading into that, in the days leading up to registration day, will be the date when you're required to commit to St. Joe's in order to secure your spot within the class, as well as secure your financial package. Okay, another question. Are need-based scholarships and need-based financial aid the same thing or two different things? Okay, let's clarify that. Need-based scholarships and need-based financial aid are two completely different things. Need-based financial aid is a separate application process through a website called FACS, which you can link through from our website. The need-based scholarships are in addition to merit scholarships. So if you are applying for financial aid and you've declared that you do have some financial need, you're going to receive an invitation to apply for the need-based scholarships. And there's a handful of those. but they are separate. They do not work in conjunction with each other. Okay, another question. Does the essay have a big impact on being accepted to the school? Mike, as we've said with the HSPT, I think I can echo this. It's a part of the process. And I'm curious to get your take. I know from reading the essays, does it have a big impact? It has an impact. I think it has more of an impact of giving us a sense of who your son is as a young man, and honestly, how interested he is in St. Joe's. I know from reading essays, a student who references his time at St. Joe's, his visits, things that are specific to our school, that gives us a sense that they have a certain feeling and a fondness for our school. And that certainly grabs our attention. But Mike, where's your take on where the essay fits into the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I would agree. Again, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the biggest piece of the puzzle. I don't know that any one piece of it sort of jumps out and I say that's critically important. I think, to sort of echo what you said, where the essay is important is it does give us some insight as to who your son is. So, because without that, your son is a whole bunch of numbers to me, which is not particularly helpful. I prefer to know who he is, what his interests are, kind of depending on which of the questions he chooses to go after. But that's why I just want to echo what I said before. It's really important that he write it. And again, not that I think the vast majority of parents are writing it, but it sticks out to me when the voice of the letter is not that of a 14-year-old. And that's the voice that I want to hear from. So again, it's a piece of the puzzle, not the largest piece. The kind of the best essays that I've read are the ones that really give me some insight as to who your son is. And that's what we're looking to do, because we're not just looking to accept the best students, or we're looking to accept the right students into St. Joe's. So character goes a long way for me.
All right, our next question's from Maribel. How does the Night for a Day program work? What does the logistics of the day look like? So those of you who are not familiar with our Night for a Day program, this is our shadow program where your son comes to school for a day. He's paired with an ambassador, and he goes and experiences what it's like to be a St. Joe student for the day. We are currently almost every day during the week have Night for a Days in the building. And our registration for that is in your portal, the same way you may have registered for an open house or an ambassador tour. You can register for Night for a Day, and we have quite a bit of openings still the next few weeks of this admission cycle. So if your son hasn't done that yet, I highly recommend that. Let me bring in Kim on this, because Kim interacts with many of our Nights for a Day. Kim, can you just tell the folks what that day looks like for an 8th grader when they come in the building, and what their schedule looks like? And curious to know, I know myself and you have met many of these boys, which has been really great getting to know them a little bit when they come in the building.
Sure, Ryan, thanks. I would say for me, having watched the boys come through for Night for a Day, the largest advantage for them is that on their own, independently, they get to experience St. Joseph Regional firsthand. So they get to step away from their parents a little bit. They get to step away from Ryan and I for the day. As Ryan mentioned, they spend 5 periods in class, so they get to experience 5 of our teachers. They get a tour, a physical tour of the campus, and they also get some time in the lunchroom, which we joke about, great chicken fingers and great cookies, but it really, really gives them an opportunity to be social, both with the ambassador that we pair them with and either that ambassador's friends or other people that they have met in the class, or maybe other people that are playing a sport or participate in a club that they're interested in. So it really gives them a very hands-on, firsthand experience of what it's like to be here, what the day feels like from an atmosphere, that intangible brotherhood that's always spoken about. They get to really feel it and experience it, and they get to do it independently, which as a 7th or 8th grader is kind of empowering to them, I feel. So for me, I get the enjoyment in watching them do it, in watching them tell Ryan and I at the end, it was great, I loved this class, or I loved this teacher, or my ambassador was so helpful. So I think that if you can arrange it, if you can make time for your son, that both your son and the parents will be glad that they did it, for sure.
Yeah, and that day runs from an 8 o'clock a.m. drop off to 12:30 in the afternoon. So they do miss a day of school, but we send letters home for those who needed an excuse letter to give to their current school to the excused absence for the Night for a Day. I would just say, in getting to meet the boys, That is a huge benefit for me who, we see hundreds of applications, many transcripts that look very similar. Having the knowledge of having a conversation with one of these boys and, seeing the boy who can hold his own and have a conversation with adult and is looking us in the eye, or talking to Kim or talking to Hillary, or if Mike comes by and says hello to them, how they interact, that tells us a lot about how they are as a young man and how they're going to fit into our St. Joe's community. So I think we all highly recommend coming in for a night for a day. Our next question, if we already submitted the application through fax for need-based financial aid, when should we expect the separate invitation to also apply for need-based scholarships? Does that come directly from a staff member at SJR? Hillary, why don't you explain how this is going to work?
She's muted. You're still muted.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Sorry about that. Yes, you will be getting an invitation within the next several days. We usually give it a little bit when people start to apply, and then you'll be invited by email from the portal email address, or from me, or from Ryan, or from Kim, or from the whole team. You'll be aware, or you'll be made aware that those checklist items are now up. The deadline for that is December 16th. And we prefer that you get it in sooner than that, but the absolute deadline is December 16th, and then decisions will be made.
So that's a week after your financial aid deadline. So if you decide close to that deadline of December 9th that you're going to apply for aid, you will then have an extra week to apply for that need-based scholarship. Question came in, is tuition due at the time of registration? Mr. Odie, you want to go over that?
Sure.
The short answer is no, tuition is not due, but there is some form of payment due at the time of registration. And maybe you can explain how the tuition payment process works.
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. We require a registration fee, which is $850 this year, and it'll probably be the same for next year, at the time that you register your son. That $850 will be credited towards your tuition once the tuition payments commence. Tuition payments commence from July through April, and they are done through the fax system. So we will deduct, usually it's over 10 payments. So we will prorate that $850 to reduce your payments each month by $85. But the $850 payment is required the day of registration, and that would be on or about that early February date that Ryan mentioned.
Okay, great. Our next question is about our Knightsbridge Academy, and the question is there financial aid available for a student applying to the Knightsbridge Academy? So just to clear up, in case you aren't familiar with the Knightsbridge Academy, the Knightsbridge Academy is our program at St. Joe's, now in our third year, which is a bridge program. So it's an extra year in between 8th and 9th grade, designed to bridge the gap for students that may not be ready for 9th grade and a college prep level curriculum. So that is a very, very strong program right now at St. Joe's. The way it differentiates itself from other programs that are similar in the area is that students in the Knightsbridge Academy are at St. Joe's. They are in school at St. Joe's. If you were walking around the hall, you could not pick them out. Maybe a couple of them might be a little smaller, but outside of that, they are in their uniform, in their polo shirts and khakis. They are integrated into the school community. They're in the cafeteria with all of our upperclassmen having lunch, and they have the ability to take part in all of the activities at St. Joe's, except interscholastic sports. They have to wait 1 year to do that, but they are students at St. Joe's, and we've seen great success in this program for our boys. We've seen students who when they were coming out of 8th grade, they simply just were not ready for high school. And that extra year has turned them into very solid students. Many of them earned scholarships. Many of them have made honor roll or principals list since then. And it's a very strong program. Now, to answer your question about financial aid, yes, financial aid is available to students who are applying for the Knightsbridge Academy. And that process is exactly the same. That's through the fax website. So you just need to indicate through your application for admission which program you are applying for, whether that's 9th grade or the Knightsbridge Academy. Another question, will you be reviewing the different merit-based scholarships and any other obligations that may come with accepting them? For example, maintaining certain grades and being an ambassador. So Mike, do you want to answer that? I know the expectation is that a student who receives a merit scholarship is expected to remain in good academic standing. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we implemented last year a self-assessment for all students to take in the spring, where they're basically reflecting on the three major tenets of our mission, which are think, lead, and serve. And so we asked students to articulate how they've demonstrated being a critical thinker, being a leader in the community, and serving in the community, because those are critical elements for us. Whenever we're giving out a merit-based scholarship, we're making an investment in the student with the expectation that they're going to make an investment back into St. Joe's. So to your point, Ryan, there is some criteria around GPA and academic standing in order to maintain the scholarship. I will tell you they are not incredibly rigorous. The school is not looking to take away money that it has awarded to its students, but we are looking for students to put forth a good effort, and again, not solely in the academic realm, but in the totality of student life here in order to maintain the scholarship. So there is criteria put in place that would be sent out once you are enrolled and a student here at the school. But again, it's more focused on how have you really contributed to the overall mission and student life here at St. Joe's.
Okay, our next question, is there a location on the website to find the essay questions options? The two options that you have for your son to write the essay are, they can answer two questions. One is why they would like to come to St. Joe's, and two is who has been a role model or someone who has inspired them throughout their life. They can choose to integrate both questions into one essay. They can choose one or the other, but those are the options that we give the students that we think generates a type of essay that gives us a glimpse of who they are as a young man, and also showcases their writing skills as well for Mike and I to review. Next question revolves financial aid. A family who comes from, whose parents may be divorced, how does the application process work when it comes to financial aid at St. Joe's? Mrs. Buckley and Mr. Odie, why don't you explain that and how that works for parents who may not be together, how that financial aid application works for them?
Well, sure, thank you. Typically, our approach is to understand the family ability to support the student financially here. And by family, that has a lot of different definitions these days. Our interest is not so much about your relationship with the other parent as much as it is about your relationship with your son. So if parents are divorced, we may ask for a divorce decree that basically outlines what the requirements are of each party to support the student through their educational journey, and that becomes fairly straightforward. If parents are filing as separated, we would potentially ask for evidence of separate households, just enough information that will help us understand the relationship between each parent and the student. That's really what it's about in terms of us trying to determine where is the financial support coming from that's going to hopefully enable us to work with the family to enable the student to attend St. Joe's.
And I would say, and maybe Andy wants to hop in on this, when it comes to the financial aid application, our business office is very willing to work with you. They want to hear your situation, get the full scope of your financial situation. We have families from many different financial backgrounds and life situations that they're in. And Mr. Odie and Mrs. Buckley are always there to have that conversation with you. They devote quite a bit of time to this. We do ask to be as transparent and forthright as you can throughout this process. That helps them gather information, which is very important, so that when there is a financial aid review, we do have the honest, full scope of the picture. But Mr. Odie, I know you guys have many conversations with families, you know, everyone comes from a different background, right?
Yes. Ryan, what we pride ourselves at St. Joe's is we pride ourselves on listening and understanding every individual family situation. What we want to do is we want to gather all that information that you want to give to us, okay? And we want to be fair to all the families that come to St. Joe's. So your situation might be one that is one of tremendous need, and we want to be there for you. And it doesn't stop when you apply to St. Joe's. It doesn't stop with that initial financial aid grant. We know that your commitment to us is for 4 years, and our commitment to you as a family is for 4 years. We understand that as we had gone through with COVID, some people lose their jobs over the course of 4 years. So we want you to be assured that we will be there for you over the time that you entrust us with your son. And that is both as far as educating him and as far as financial responsibility. Likewise, we respect the fact that, and we hope that you will be there for us. So we want to be as fair as possible. We want as much information as possible to allow us to make the best decision possible for the granting of financial aid, because we have to spread it among a number of families. And once again, we want to be there for you, both this incoming freshman class and over the next 4 years.
I would just add to that, that if you have not filled out a financial aid application before, if this may be your first student considering Catholic high school, you will see that the application asks for quite a bit of information. And as Mr. Odie said, our approach is really intended to be sort of a holistic view of not only the information that you supply in terms of the numbers, but there is an opportunity for you to, it's an open-ended question for you to kind of tell us what you think we need to know, and sort of you know, enhance just the numbers. It's one thing to know your assets, your income, and all the expenses of family life, but please take advantage of the open-ended question that says, what else should we know about you and your family that will help us in this process? It's a lot of times families skip that portion, and it leaves us to rely on sort of like a black and white approach, and maybe to not understand the color commentary that you think might help us. I would also welcome you to call the business office to talk through issues if you think that would help. As Mr. Odie said, we are really all about many levels trying to sort of take advantage of the size of school that we have. We are not too big and we are not too small. And our size enables us to serve you and your family and your son very personally. And that includes, you know, what we do in the business office. So don't ever hesitate to pick up the phone and call.
And that's such a great point. And that's something that if you've been to our open houses or had conversations with myself or Hillary or Kim or Mike at this point, that individualized approach it's what makes us special. I think it's why we stand out as a school, and it's across the board, not just with Mary Kay and Andy in the business office, but with someone like Mike, who was available to families as principal, our curriculum office, the same way. Anything you need from our admissions team, we pride ourselves on being there for you. It's that family approach that I know I've spoken with you about, as well as your boys, that we kind of are all there to support each other and give you that approach, and it carries over into the classroom with the type of learning environment your boys will be in. So that is across the board something we pride ourselves on at St. Joe's. We have about 10 minutes or so left to have a few questions here in the queue. So if you do have some remaining questions, be sure to type those into the Q&A section on the side, and we're going to hope to get them, get those answers for you before we are done. Our next question regards the 9th grade applicant record. Our school requires every student to fill out the 9th grade applicant record form for the Archdiocese. We needed to list all the schools we wanted the transcript sent to, and then they will automatically forward the complete transcripts once our first trimester ends. Does this replace the need to also fill out the transcript request on your application site? The short answer there is, the simple answer is yes, especially if you're coming from a Catholic school and you filled out that transcript applicant record and you listed St. Joe's as one of the schools you were interested in, we will get those grades. So there's no need to double request them. I think with some of the public schools, those forms are available, and families do find that hard form as well. I do recommend, if your son's coming from a public school as well, to make the request through the portal digitally as well. Those guidance counselors have quite a large amount of transcripts that they are pulling for the parochial schools in the area. So if you're in public school, I would do both if you can, or just do it digitally. But the Catholic schools, if you do fill out that form with St. Joe's on there, we will get them. We usually get them in bulk. So a school like Our Lady of Mercy will send us the bulk applications or transcripts and records from students at their school that listed St. Joe's. So we will get those. Our next question is, my son has an IEP. Does that count against him when it comes to merit scholarships or financial aid? So the short answer there is absolutely not. We have many students with IEPs and 504 plans that come to St. Joe's. They are all eligible for scholarships. And Mike, I know you would echo that's really not part of the process when it comes to awarding financial aid or merit-based scholarships.
That's correct. And in fact, I'd go one step further to say, so on the application, it does ask whether your student has an ISP, IEP 504, and parents can be hesitant about wanting to share that information. Please share that information. It does not at all count against your son when we are going through review for admission. In fact, it helps us to make a better determination about his services and what we can and cannot do for him. So I would say, please be forthcoming with that information. We really wrap our arms around and work with those families of students who do have some sort of learning need. So please don't shy away from it. Let us know as soon as you can.
Okay, our next question. I have heard rumors of a special scholarship combined learning tract called Donnelly Scholars. Can you speak more about this program, specifically the criteria? Is there a minimum score required on the HSPT to be considered? And is there a maximum number of students expected for this each year? So it is certainly not a rumor. It is fact that the Donnelly Scholars is a program that St. Joe's prides itself on. It's our highest level of curriculum out of the 4 curriculum levels at St. Joe's. These students are in the most rigorous of classes. They get access to AP classes earliest throughout their 4 years at St. Joe's, and they are pushed in the classroom. They have shown the students that are invited and awarded a Donnelly scholarship, which is usually our highest level scholarship. Those students have shown that they are capable of a certain type of workload when it comes to their grades, also their HSPT score. I certainly wouldn't say that there's a minimum score required. There's a range of scores. They are on the higher end, the highest of high end when it comes to the HSPT scores to be considered. There is a maximum that we like to keep in that class. It's usually in the 12 to 14 range for the Donnelly Scholar Program, which is now in its 4th year. Our first Donnelly Scholars group are now juniors, so this will be our 4th year coming in. And I know, Mike, we're very excited to see where those boys end up when it comes to college acceptances. I know you're very confident that that group of boys, the first Donnelly Scholars, are going to be accepted to some prestigious institutions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in addition to their rigorous course load, we give them some additional SAT, ACT prep leading up to those exams. Again, these are students who, as Ryan said, score in the top percentiles on the HSPT test. So students with exemplary demonstrated ability that we really want to push within reason through their 4 years here. Because the other piece of it, that's true for all students at St. Joe's, is we don't want anyone to be one-dimensional. So yes, we want you to be an exceptional student, but we want you to also take advantage of the other opportunities that are afforded to all students here in the extracurricular realm. So simply by saying yes to a Donnelly Scholarship you're not saying no to sort of a regular high school experience. So that piece of it's important. But yes, our current juniors, I mean, all the students in the program are exceptional. We are anticipating that they're going to see some acceptances from some of the best colleges and universities across the country. They've demonstrated exceptional performance on their AP tests so far. So yeah, again, a unique program for sort of the higher end kids, but an exciting opportunity for those guys.
And we really feel that the Donnelly Scholars Program really differentiates St. Joe's from some of the other parochial schools in the area that certainly have scholarships to their honors program. And to make it clear, this is a bit different than our honors program. This really is a special type of academic program that we've designed here at St. Joe's, that the boys have a certain level of opportunity that's not afforded to honor students. These are the best of the best academic students when it comes to St. Joe's. And we're excited. The program is done very well. Those students that are in this program tend to be often the most involved in school activities, community service, campus ministry, athletics, performing arts. Across the board, these young men are probably the ones that you've met, many of them at our open houses. They're the tour guides and the ones that are having conversations with you in the hallways at St. Joe's, and they really are impressive young men. I have a question coming in from Carla. If we do not list St. Joe's as our son's first choice, will that be held against him when it comes to scholarships or financial aid? This has been a hot button topic the last few years. There are schools in the area that do require their applicants to list them first, even though the diocese has changed this year where they don't list first, second, and third choice. The form looks very, very similar to years past. There are 3 boxes and you fill them out from left to right. So we do see that. But St. Joe's does not require students to list us as their first choice in order to be eligible for scholarships and financial aid. We do not think that that's fair to the young men, many of whom are filling out that form in September and October, and they've yet to decide who their favorite choice is or where they may want to go to school. And Mike, I know we've talked a lot about this. Certainly that's not taken into account and certainly does not rule out students when it comes to when we're reviewing merit-based scholarships.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And you said it well. Like, we're not looking at what I've shared with families is I have no interest in being your first choice in November. I would much prefer to be your first choice come registration day. And if throughout the admissions process, you are showing great interest in us, we are going to in turn show great interest in you. So if you're doing things like sitting on a webinar on a Wednesday night for an hour, thank you. If you're coming to open houses, if your son is spending a day with us, that to me is you're treating us like a first choice. And again, we will in turn do the same for you. So yes, if you're hearing that in other places, I feel badly. That's not a level of pressure that we're looking to put on your son or you as a family. So yes, it does not preclude you at all from consideration.
Okay, I'm getting close to wrapping up. I just want to review those dates one more time for everyone. So they are clear. So our application deadline for admission is December 9th. That is a Friday. The same date, December 9th, is our application for financial aid deadline. And that is all done online, and that process is open right now. And myself, Kim, and Hillary are there for you over this time to help answer questions. No question is too small. So please call us or email us. We can help walk you through that process and make it as simple as possible for you. January 12th is when our acceptances go out in the mail. January 13th, they will go out via email. So you will know by that second week of January whether your son was accepted, whether they earned a merit scholarship or a need-based scholarship, and whether you were awarded financial aid. And then February 11th is registration day at St. Joe's. That's often a fun day on campus where kids are really celebrating the next 4 years and their excitement to join the Green Knights family. So that is all coming up. Until then, we always invite you to come back. I tell all of our families when they visit for Night for Day, we want you to come back and experience other aspects of our schools. So winter sports is starting, basketball, wrestling. If you want to come to a game or a match, or you want to come to our winter musical, which is in January, that's Into the Woods this year. It's as simple as shooting us an email and letting us know we'd like 4 tickets to Into the Woods on Friday night, and you will be our VIP guest. We will have tickets waiting for you so that you as a family can see what our community is all about. Our boys do a lot at St. Joe's when it comes to sports activities, and their family and their parents are very active in taking part in that. So we want you to see what that is like as well. A couple last questions coming in right now. To clarify, the application form is due 12/9, also means the teacher letter of recommendation due then as well. That is correct. So when we say the deadline for application, your son's application must be complete by 12/9. So that's application form with his essay, his grades must be sent to us, his letter of recommendation, and of course, we would have his HSPT scores. We will have those. We expect those the week before the deadline. They're usually sent to us from the testing company. One more question coming in. When letters of recommendation are done via the portal, are they more of a form question or more open-ended? They are open-ended. There's no stock form. So if your guidance counselor is asking about that, that can be on a Microsoft Word doc or a Google Doc. Simply, they can write that letter and upload it to your son's portal right there. And that will check his box. Your green progress bar will increase and you'll know where you're at when it comes to his application status leading up to December 9th. The last thing we want to invite you to as well is our next Sofa Social. Our second edition of that is Monday night next week. So that's November 21st. The topic for that webinar is going to be athletics, performing arts, clubs, and activities. So we'll have a panel of guests. We'll have some of our coaches. We'll have representatives from performing arts, as well as some of our clubs and activities to answer questions about some of the opportunities extracurricular wise that your son is going to have at St. Joe's. Hillary, did you want to add something before I saw you raising your hand there?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify that official transcripts and your letters of recommendation are due. There are some schools that are on a trimester schedule, and parents kind of freak out a little bit saying we can't get you our most recent report card until after the due date. We do recognize that some kids are on that different schedule, and we will accept the most recent report card or the first quarter or first trimester report card from those schools after the 9th of December.
Right. So don't worry about that. There are certain school districts we are well aware over the years that run right up against that application deadline. That's okay. That will certainly not be held against your son. We'll just simply wait a week or so to read their application so that the rest of their grades and transcripts are included in the full application. So, all right, it looks like it just right up against 8 o'clock that we will be able to wrap up. So we thank you for joining us tonight on our Sofa Social. Again, our second installment is Monday night, November 21st. And that's going to be for athletics, performing arts, and clubs and activities. We hope you can join us. You have the registration invitation in your email, and you can register for that night for next Monday right there in that same portal. So thank you to all our panelists tonight for answering all these great questions. And we hope to see you next Monday night on our next Sofa Social. Thanks, everybody.